She was barely more than a child when she was taken from her home and forced into a palace of shadows. To the world, she was a princess. To her family, she was a pawn. And to her husband, she was nothing more than a possession. History remembers her not for her beauty, nor her crown, but for the madness that consumed her. This is the chilling story of the royal child bride who was tortured into insanity. Our story takes us to 16th century Spain, where alliances were stronger than love, and a young girl named Juana of Austria was married off before she even knew what marriage meant. For royal families, children were bargaining chips, traded like gold to strengthen empires. Juana was sent away from her mother, her toys replaced with jewels, her lessons changed from fairy tales to court etiquette. She did not belong to herself anymore. She belonged to the crown. The people celebrated her wedding with fireworks and feasts, but behind the palace gates, Juana wept. She was too young to understand the vows she was forced to take, too young to know the cruelty that awaited her. Her husband, Archduke Ferdinand, was twice her age. History paints him as a man of temper, jealousy, and suspicion. He believed Juana's duty was to obey in silence. When she cried for her family, he called her weak. When she smiled at courtiers, he accused her of betrayal. He locked her in cold chambers, surrounded by stone walls, with only servants to watch her every move. To the outside world, she was a royal bride. Behind closed doors, she was a prisoner. Royal courts were gilded cages. Every gesture was judged, every word weighed. Juana's husband demanded loyalty, yet he gave her none in return. Rumors spread that he took mistresses, flaunting them openly. Worse still, he turned Juana's ladies-in-waiting against her, instructing them to report her tears, her dreams, even her screams in the night. She had no allies, no friends, only spies. Whenever she resisted, she was punished, sometimes locked in darkness for days, sometimes denied food, and sometimes forced to attend ceremonies while wearing heavy jewels that cut into her skin, symbols of a crown she could not escape. Juana's imprisonment was not just isolation, it was cruelty sharpened into ritual. Guards were ordered to keep her windows nailed shut, so she would never feel the warmth of the sun. Her meals were brought to her in silence, and if she refused to eat, she was beaten until she obeyed. At times, her jailers chained her to her bed for days, claiming it was to protect her from herself. But the truth was simpler. It was to break her spirit. There are records that priests forced her to attend Mass while bound, her trembling hands tied, so she could not cover her face as tears streamed down. And at night, they left her alone in freezing stone chambers, whispering that the voices she heard were not madness but demons. For a child bride turned widow, a mother turned prisoner, the line between faith and torture blurred until there was nothing left, only shadows. Over time, Juana began to break. She whispered to shadows, laughed at silence, and claimed she could hear voices calling her name. Servants told stories of her pacing the halls barefoot, her hair unkempt, her eyes wide with terror. Her husband used this as proof that she was unstable, declaring her unfit to rule or even to live as a free woman. But was it madness, or the slow unraveling of a girl crushed under cruelty? For Juana, the deepest wound was not the chains or the stone walls. It was the loss of her children. She had 6, each one a fragile spark of hope in her shadowed world. But one by one, they were taken from her. Princes and princesses stolen from their mother's arms and sent away to be raised as tools of the empire. Juana begged to hold them, to see their faces, but her pleas were ignored. She was told they would visit, yet months turned into years, and years into silence. Her son, Charles, would one day rise as Emperor Charles V, ruling over vast lands. To the world, he was a mighty sovereign, but to Juana, he was the boy she had once rocked to sleep, who now allowed her to rot in isolation. The irony was cruel. The child she bore to strengthen the crown became the ruler who ensured she would never again walk free. Juana's madness, they said, made her unfit to be a mother. But perhaps it was not madness at all. Perhaps it was the unbearable grief of a mother denied her children, forced to live with the echo of lullabies in empty chambers. When Archduke Ferdinand died suddenly, many thought Juana would finally be free. But freedom never came. Instead, her own family betrayed her. They declared her insane and locked her away in the fortress of Tordesillas. She was forbidden from seeing her children, forbidden from walking beyond the iron bars. She became a ghost inside stone walls, trapped not by enemies, but by her own blood. Juana lived in isolation for over 40 years. 40 years of silence, prayers, and shadows. Sometimes she refused to eat, and priests whispered that she was possessed. Other times, she sang lullabies to no one, still clinging to the memory of children stolen from her. The palace called her Juana la Loca, Juana the Mad. But perhaps she was never mad at all. Perhaps she was simply broken by a world that demanded obedience and punished innocence. History often remembers kings for their victories and queens for their beauty. But what of those who were crushed beneath crowns too heavy to bear? Juana's story is not just about madness. It is about cruelty disguised as tradition, love replaced with power, and innocence sacrificed for empire. She died in her fortress cell, an old woman who had entered as a child bride. The empire moved on, her name remembered only as a warning. In the halls of power, even the most delicate flower can be twisted into thorns. And behind every crown, there may lie a curse, not of magic, but of human cruelty,